Welcome everyone to this live broadcast. This is Evolution of Consciousness Recapitulation, aka Recap. I'm recapping the Evolution of Consciousness Convention, which took place in Hollywood, California 1 week ago on New Year's Eve weekend. And it's essentially a gathering of some male coaches, a couple of female coaches, talking about a lot of things that relate to living. There was a lot of business. There was a lot of some fashion, actually. There was some spirituality, like we had a sorcerer and a voodoo priest come and talk. I gave a talk or several talks and led some people through yoga. We had a tantrika who came and talked about sexual energy. And a tantrika, if you've ever heard of tantra yoga or tantric practices, and then a tantrika would be a female tantra practitioner. She was older. She was probably like 60. She's been around. She's like whoring herself, but she's got a lot of experience. And we had a shaman that came and did breath work with us. So those were some of the spiritual things. But then there were a lot of more sexual things. Like there was a porn director who gave a talk and gave a demo. I didn't stay for the demo, but there was a demo of some pornography. I think really impacted a lot of the guys live because they were changed. When I saw them later, they were very different. And but then a lot of the other seminars relate with dating and the male mind around that. And it's more than like a dating convention, but there's definitely, it's going to be very limited in how much a man can evolve if he's avoiding the subject of dating. If he might go to a monastery and evolve himself within that context, but it's kind of like if I got really, really good at Tiger Woods golf, like the video game. Or let's take another game. Let's say chess. I was really, really good at chess. But then I tried to pick up Tiger Woods' video game. I wouldn't be good just because I was great at chess. Or let's say I was really, really good at Tiger Woods' golf, but then I went and tried to play soccer outside. Wouldn't mean that I was good at soccer. Let's say I was really, really good at soccer, and then I tried to go to yoga. Like, just because I'm really good in a narrow context, you guys get it. Just because I'm good in like some narrow subject field doesn't mean I'm good over here. Just because a person is good in a monastery, able to be quiet, study, sit for long periods of time, listen to a teacher, maybe do some mindless kind of redundant tasks for their job, like weaving baskets, or, monks don't really do like high-end labor kind of thing. Just because they're really good in that context and highly evolved in that context, put them in a nightclub and they'll be fucked up. Put them in a social venue, they don't know how to relate with people. They're too rigid. They're stiff inside. And so, but then, conversely, it's obvious that, let's say a socialite or someone that stays in the social venue, someone that keeps interacting with people consistently, is just always talking, which eventually will become just chit chat. Put them in a monastery, put them in a yoga class, put them in something where they have to sit still with their thoughts, and they'll go crazy. They're not used to listening on the inside. They're used to speaking it on the outside. So balance there. And this is what the evolution of consciousness, I think one of the real driving points are. There's a couple of ancillary points like the fashion, and definitely business is a big part of that, because just because a man is really good at talking with women, or a woman is really good at relating with men, or just because a man is highly spiritually evolved or able to dive deep into his spiritual practices, breathing, meditating, any kind of like mental practices that they have, both of those do not translate to business. It doesn't translate to the money needed to live and survive and thrive and enjoy what planet Earth has to offer while in the limited time that you're here. So business is essential for that. And we had two business specialists at the Evolution of Consciousness. Joe Nicasio, who is a master at packaging people's online programs and marketing them. And Brian Casella, who's a sales master, language master. And I'm talking masterful. Like, you meet him in person and it's not like he's going to be levitating. But when you start hearing him talk about sales, or if you have any sales questions and you ask him questions about sales, it's amazing how adaptable he is. He'll just fit himself into your industry and then come up with some sound bites. And you're like, fuck, if I had only said that, the sale would have happened. So that's a sales master. And it's kind of like I am with yoga. Wherever you are, if you're feeling confined in any direction, I see Akash just joined. If you're feeling confined in any direction, I can speak to you in a way that will create more space inside, and then teach you something that will help you on your own, in your own time, create more space inside. So, evolution of consciousness convention. Let's see. I had some kind of talking points. The how men relate with women, have discovered for myself, is the liaison between these practices. It's the liaison between sales and business and spiritual practices, because every man is seeking to earn money so that he can get women. That's what he's doing. He wants money so that, it's so that he can live sensorially and all of that stuff. But why? Like, most men that you meet don't really care about it. They don't really care about their senses. They care about women. They want women. Or a woman of their choice. They want that one woman that they just want. They want that one. And at the end of most men's actions is a woman. Okay? So you can make the money and you can get the women, but at some point, I have experienced this, whoever she is going to want something deeper from you. And Akash, I'll go ahead and kind of promote you to panelist, and then you share your video, and then we'll kind of go at it. I'll just finish this one point. So, looking good, Akash. And then, what was I saying? So at some point, she's going to want something deeper. She's going to want some understanding of why is she feeling these kinds of emotions? Where is this vision going? Where are we going with our life? Vision is a spiritual, to be able to see where you're going. And she's going to just want understanding of this matrix. Like, if she's not getting it from you as a man, she's getting it from somewhere. She's getting her idea about the universe and why things work the way they do, why men and women relate the way they do, because she's very concerned with that one. Why men, especially if she's a mother, she doesn't want to lead her kid astray. So you, as the man in the relationship, must be able to give her your mindset about this. And she may or may not follow, but she's following somebody. She's not reinventing the wheel. So she's listening to somebody, and she would rather listen to her man than other people. And if she doesn't, then it's not really her man. It's a boy. She has a boy. She's trying to teach her boy in the same way that she would teach her son. So having a spiritual evolution and having a spiritual a practice and something that you can turn inwards and extract deeper understandings of what you're externally perceiving, and then organize them in a way that's consistent, that achieves something, that you progress, and that feels good and brings a kind of liberation and happiness. After survival is taken care of with money, after replication is taken care of with dating and relationships, then we want happiness. We want bliss, liberation, and spiritual practices. And all three of those constellate around each other, and this is the essence of the evolution of consciousness convention. For me, this is how I perceived it. And it's not necessarily how it was sold, but I'm joined by Akash. Akash was at the Evolution of Consciousness Convention. He lives in New Jersey and works around New Jersey, New York area, and he's biotech research analyst. So he flew all the way out to Hollywood. I flew out there from Florida also, so we have that in common. We're willing to take that step to, for New Year's Eve weekend, instead of being around all the things that would be tempting to be around where we are, where we're celebrities where we are, we're going to go to Hollywood where nobody knows us, because we want to improve and better ourselves, and in a way that we know is going to reap benefits. Like, for the ticket price of Evolution of Consciousness, compared to how transformative that was and what's that's doing down the line. Like, we're just climbing ahead of all the guys that would rather sit at home and watch Netflix the whole weekend. Like, they basically just killed 4 days of their life. They're going to die 4 days sooner. They didn't evolve at all, except now they have some weird trivia fact about Iron Man or some shit. But then here, Akash and I are, growing. And so here is Akash. I'd love to just kind of get a piece of your mind and where you're at, and then we can just kind of take it from there. What's up, brother? You're muted. Do I need to unmute you? Okay.
Yes.
There we go.
Thank you so much for the amazing introduction. It's Evolution of Consciousness was an incredible conference. As you mentioned, just really taking time to continue to grow and grow in a mindful way. We're always growing, and this was one of my big takeaways, was we're always growing. You will always continue to grow. This is just the nature of life. But we have a choice every single day on how do we grow. My dad actually once had given me the idea of, if you have a tree that's growing and it's kind of growing a little crooked, a lot of the times when it's young, you can like put a stick right next to it and tie the stick next to it so that it grows straight and correct. If you allow it to continue to grow though without the stick, it kind of grows crooked and then it can fall upon itself. So to bring it back to the evolution of consciousness here is we have the opportunity to grow in a way that makes us that preserves our own integrity and our own morals. Or we have the ability to grow in a way that really doesn't serve us or doesn't allow us to be continuing to grow on the path that we were meant to. And so by going to this type of convention, at least for me personally, reminded me of where am I seeking to go and what are the things that I need to get there. Being surrounded by a group of 20 guys who are committed to self-development, and then 12 or so gurus who are just at the peak and continuing to grow in their respective fields. There's nothing like it. Being with people who are just so committed to self-development and growing is absolutely amazing. So that was a couple of my takeaways. The other thing I really wanted to talk about was actually the idea of a tribe. I think in today's modern day and age, we've very much lost this whole idea of being in a tribe. And especially for men, I think it has huge consequences. The idea of belonging to some community, and this community has this type of code as to this is the way we conduct ourselves in the world. This is the way that we act with each other. And this is how others see us. I think it's super, super important. So many men today don't have that real strong sense of community and tribe that really allows them to go into the world and know exactly who they are in a lot of ways. Going out, you can see it. A lot of these guys, you look in their eyes and they're just completely lost.
Yeah.
It's something that's super important to have a strong tribe and someone who's able to articulate these ideas and philosophies as we talked about. So that's another big point that I wanted to really hone in, is like having a tribe of people who are at their peak in all of these different areas really does enable you to tap into that collective tribal wisdom. So.
Yeah, super interesting. Even just the idea of peak, because we're like pushing the peak higher. It's a funny thing looking at like a peak of a mountain, because the mountain generally isn't really growing that fast. But these guys' peaks, it's almost like they're a rocket ship and they just keep flying higher and higher and higher. And it's like the heavens are the limit. Like just go to another galaxy. Like it never ends. Just keep going. How far do you want to go? And with the distance, the more potential energy there is between there and here, which can do work, right? But then the trick is not to get too far out in space and not be able to relate with people. So I really love this idea of a tribalism that you're talking about. I've heard pros and cons about it. I hear exactly what you're saying. I see a lot of guys out that they're almost like glossy-eyed. They're like deer caught in headlights. Like they don't know how to relate. They don't know where they're at. They don't have like a code of conduct. Like let's say a Marine would have a code of conduct. An Army Ranger would have a code of conduct. Like a Spartan would have a code of conduct. An IMC Nation man would have a code of conduct. But they don't really have a code. They have, if you drilled them with some questions, you discover that they do have a code of conduct, but it's probably a lot of contradictions, and they're not really keeping in their mind what they're doing things because they haven't really thought it out, because they've never had to really explain it. When you explain it, not in like a defensive way, but explain it like to teach somebody, then you really get your logic in line, and you connect all the dots. So yeah, I see a lot of guys that seem like they're caught in headlights, but I've also heard negatives about tribalism. And also, a lot of people, they think they're part of community, like maybe they're part of their church, or they're part of like a yoga studio or whatever. Like there's a lot of like these yoga groups on Facebook that are big, some small, but big meaning like 20,000 people. And there's a community there. But like I'll post in that community and the community will attack me, and they'll start commenting about how my information's false, or how I was too flowery in my language, or I'm over-promising things, or it's just nonsense that it's like I'm too busy helping people to even reply to their comments. But so that's what most people's idea of community is. Most people's idea of family and community is attack each other to keep each other in check. Most people's ideas, they wouldn't say it like that because it sounds depressing, because it is. But if you go around anybody around their family, they're just negatively talking at each other, trying to control each other. And as soon as you break free from that, coming to something like Evolution of Consciousness Convention, and you realize that there are men and women around you, it's possible that they actually support you in your goals and dreams. That I could tell Arash Tibazar or Vince Kelvin anything I want, and they'd be like, cool, so how are you going to go about that? All right, how can I help? And it's just like, whoa, like I was expecting resistance because I was so used to 25 years of my life. I speak my goals and dreams and everyone around me tries to like control it or refine it for me. Like as if they have a more intelligent take on it than me, as if I haven't been thinking about this for 12 years. Really, in like 6 minutes, I'm going to tell it to you and you have an idea of how I should change my course of action. And it's one thing if they have proven it. You know, if they are somebody that I look up to and admire, I tell them in 3 minutes what my vision and goal is, but they have $10 million and they're an entrepreneur. Yeah, I'm going to listen to your advice. But if you're just a peer like me, and you're trying to give me advice on how to do things, I'm deaf to you. I'm not even going to pay attention to you. And I could go further into that. You know, there was a girl that's in my silent flute that was talking about, you know, she was in the hospital and one of her coworkers was giving an opinion about relationships. And she's like, I didn't even accept it. It was just her viewpoint. But then later it came out that she had actually adopted that viewpoint, that what that woman had said to her had funneled into her mind, and now she was defending her opinion against someone else's opinion in her own mind. So you guys got to be very aware of what are you feeding your mind. You're aware of what you're feeding your mouth. What are you listening to? You're listening to me right now. You're about to listen to Akash as I hand it over to him. But your physiology actually changes based on what you're saying to yourself. Your physiology changes based on what you're hearing. If you went to a heavy metal rock concert, inside your pH and your hormone balance would be different than if you went to an opera. What you're feeding your mind is creating an experience inside of you. Be more aware of it. And so when it comes to like tribalism, I've heard negatives about it's easy to like, let's say, be aggressive towards other people or not treat other people well because of the nature of tribalism. Like other tribes are your enemy. Like there aren't really that many friendly tribes. They're like against each other. And so it's a recipe to create hostility or aggression in this world that I'm taking the other person's viewpoint, in this world where there's like globalism and people are sharing ideas and we're looking for more friendliness, and there's been female oppression and black oppression and Indian oppression and oppression of everybody, and let's just all get along. And what's your take on that, Akash? Since you brought up the idea of like, you know, being part of a tribe, how do you see how that other viewpoint I just said is correct, and or how do you see how that's deleterious to men and women who are taking benefit from tribalism, or who are looking at this kind of broadcast and Evolution of Consciousness broadcast, and we're describing it as like a tribe. So how should they process this idea of like, okay, there's a tribe over here, I could join it, they seem strong, but then there's this other tribe of humankind, and they're all telling me that I should avoid tribes? Or is that something that you even see happening? What's your take?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point and such. I mean, we do live in a globalized culture where ideas and things are flowing back and forth between countries and such. On that same token, though, it's really important to realize that at our roots, we are a socialized creature or a social being. And so as a result of that, we tend to congregate in areas where our ideas kind of melt together and make sense together, or we strive to get to a place where we're trying to understand each other and such. And so as a result, certain ideas end up, and if you think of it in a circle or some such thing, end up in one area, certain ideas end up in another, and that's where you sprout I guess growing deeper into an idea or a philosophy. And that's kind of where the idea of tribalism comes. It's like, yeah, in the beginning or at any point in time, you could be any type of thing. And I'm not saying to only go to one or go to only the other. I think it's really important to sample all of these different types of ideas. But you can't just continue to sample because at some point you don't get any richness within one of them. That's one of the things that I had learned is like really committing to one type of idea, going down that path for a little while, at least just to have a base understanding of what is it really like. What is that idea like? What does it teach you? What are the ideals and values of this? And then you can always change. I mean,
Mm.
there's no like you have
Mm-hmm.
to be with this, and if you're
Yeah.
not, we're gonna kill you or some such thing. But there is a lot of value to sticking with something for quite some time, and that was
Mm-hmm.
another, I guess, big learning for me. It's like, look, you can do this for just for this weekend and be done with it, or you can commit to it for your life or however long
Yeah.
you really want to. But that's when you really get the richness of it, and you're really able to see that through Vince or Arash or through Brian or any of the mentors who were there who stuck with their path for such a long time, and now you hear them speak and you're like, whoa, like they've
Yeah.
really done something, and they've
Yes.
gotten to a deeper essence of something. So
Yeah. And I remember early in the journey, I would take notes of people like Arash, Brian, Vince. There were some other coaches at the time. And there was a lot of like powerful frames. And it's those that maybe haven't heard that word before, like a perspective, a way of seeing something, like a frame of perspective. And so I would take notes, take on their frames, maybe type a Facebook post about it, maybe do a live video about it or make a video about it. And it's like an actor, let's say somebody's playing, I don't know, Pirates of the Caribbean, like Johnny Depp. Like Johnny Depp's playing Johnny Depp. And then here I am, an untrained actor, and I take the script and I try to pretend to be Johnny Depp. But I have the same audience. Like, let's say it's the live play of it or something. And so they're all expecting Johnny Depp. But then here comes Chris with Chris's acting skill, and Chris tries to be Johnny Depp in Pirates of the Caribbean. And they're all like, they boo it, right? Because it's like terrible. Like, I can't act like Johnny Depp. And so being around that like level of depth in their field and their knowledge and their intense and kind of very poetic and strong way of wording their opinions and wording their philosophies. And if I just take that and adopt it and then I put it out as if it's my own communication, it's often met with resistance from the world. The world is not prepared. They're not used to me communicating that way. And so I get like a new reference of language going to like events like this, a new reference for how to talk about my experience and how to talk about my goals and dreams and what I expect. And, a big one would be talking about relationships. Like, how do I see a relationship? Especially you're a YTT, registered yoga teacher. And in the yoga community, it's majority women in the United States. In India, it's not so. In India, it's mostly men, and it's mostly looked down upon. But in America, it's mostly women practicing yoga. Go to a yoga studio, it's going to be mostly women. If you go to a yoga studio and talk about men as the leader of a relationship, women should follow their man, and this, that, and the other thing, like you're going to get crucified. It's going to be a witch burning, and you're the witch. And so there needs to be like a calibration for that environment. And yet individually, I have found, because I've taught 2,000 women, and a lot of them will come up to me after a workshop and say this or that, especially about relationships. I don't think they're very used to a young guy teaching them. And I have a certain way of talking. They'll come up to me and unload some things. One-on-one, almost every single one of those females agrees with what I just said. But in the group, they don't. Because in the group, they look to each other of like, do you agree? Do you agree? Because they're a social creature. And if there's one distension, the whole group becomes dissenting. And unless you take control, but I don't have control of that group because I'm just a guest clinician, right? If I was like if I was the owner of that studio, it would be different. And so I guess what I'm saying is, have you experienced anything like that? Like going to something like this Evolution of Consciousness convention, or any boot camps or any weekend trainings that you've done with these guys, any of these guys, and taken on that language and taken on that frame and brought it back to your reality? And has that been met with any friction in your reality where you live?
oh, completely, absolutely, completely, and I think it comes down to the incongruency, as you
Mm,
mentioned and alluded to. Um, I mean, we've been conditioned prior to this in society that this isn't a way of thinking, or it's not the proper way of thinking, or um, like that isn't the way in some senses. And when you come to these types of conventions, you really expand your mindset because it fundamentally challenges everything that you think. Brian Kissel, I think, during the conference said, question yourself deeply and realize that there's no limit to what you can do.
mm,
And so by going through this, you really find a group of people who are truly free thinkers and really willing to challenge the status quo at the most fundamental levels.
mm,
Um, and that's when you do that, for sure, you're completely changed because you get to see the world with much clearer eyes in a lot of ways. And it really makes you question a lot of the things that you've grown up with, the ideas that you've had, but you didn't realize that you had until someone else had challenged them in such a fundamental
Yeah.
way. In terms
Yeah.
of the way that they're living and being.
Wow.
And so, to get back to your question of have I been met with resistance on this? Sure, totally. For me, it's mostly been through family, actually. But as I continue to go forward and propagate ideas into the world, I'm sure it'll be with friends, and I constantly do every like 3 months or so. I do an invite to people of like, look, I'm not for everyone in terms of like the things that I say and what I post and etc. I invite you to just unfollow me and not continue with my path because I know it's not for everyone. I know it's going to be interesting as hell. But on the same token, it may challenge you and it may break your reality in a way that may not allow you to be comfortable. That's one of the big things. Another big things I took away was like, I refuse to continue along the path of comfort and really embrace the discomfort of things. And the conference really challenged me in so many different ways, whether it be staying up for close to 2 days on end, or with a lot of these different ideas of how life is to be or some such thing. There were so many different ways that it would challenge me and open my eyes to new things, new possibilities.
Yeah, and it really broadened my experience of understanding and compassion and acceptance. You know, if I am to accept that what was the yoga studio? I was down in St. Petersburg teaching at this really big yoga studio, one of the best yoga studios in the Southeast. Like, this is a really good yoga studio. I've been to a lot of places, guys. This is a really good one. And I taught weekend immersion there. And I go there, and I mean, they got a great business model going. The two owners are lesbians, and so, you know, they have ethos around, and I'm okay with that. It's just you could tell, like, there's a personality to that. And so they have the unisex bathroom and the women's bathroom, and there's no men's bathroom. And it threw me off. I was like, where's the men's bathroom? I want a men's bathroom. Like, I accept that there's unisex bathroom. I accept that the women deserve their own bathroom. Where's my bathroom? I want acceptance also. But no, there's no acceptance for the man in this world. No, I'm just teasing. But definitely training. Okay, we got some Andreas, Jordan writing some things. I'll get to you guys comments or questions, type them. And I'll get on the Facebook comments and questions, so type those. You know, so it's really, I feel more accepting of people when I hear new and different language around life, and especially when it comes to when I'm met with resistance, when I start putting out my new truth. My truth changes, guys. Subjective truth changes. Hello, none. Yeah. Oh, she was there. Oh, yeah, Holly. She was there. Yeah, I want a men's bathroom, you know? I want to feel safe. I don't want to go in there and think there's, you know, some chick that just thinks she's a guy, and then, I mean, I'm sure that most of them are really guys inside, but I'm sure some of them are pretending. Because I know as a guy, I'm sure there's some guys that are pretending to be chicks to go into the unisex bathroom. Like, it's just inevitable, you know? Anyway, so what was I talking about? I'm just becoming more, as I see the resistance from the world and to my truth. And over time, iterations of people resisting. Or, you know, a big one would be like the man leading the woman. Or another one would be that I'm not for everybody. I'm not trying to sell everybody. You know, a big thing in yoga is just teach it for free. You know, don't you want to help me with your yoga? Don't you want me to learn yoga? And it's like, yeah, that's why I put 700 videos on YouTube for free that you can go and watch any of them. That I've helped, over 1 million minutes have been watched on my YouTube channel. That's a lot of minutes that I've helped people for free. And so, but you want me in person to teach you for free? Well, guess what? I've also taught like 100 private lessons for free when I was getting practice. And I've taught many donation classes in the park where people didn't even pay. So yeah, I've taught a lot for free. I've earned that. And but that's a big, kind of contentious area when you start talking about I'm selling, you know, yoga. My private sessions are $150 for yoga. And not everybody affords that. But the people who buy it get a lot out of it because they like go into their savings account and pay for it, and they know they want it, and then they listen, and then they absorb and they get it. So when I'm met with more and more resistance from the world with my newly adopted truths, and I see how badly they treat me, and they're hostile. all of the talking points they have for why tribalism is bad, they're proving it with anti-me. They're not accepting of me and my truths. And truthfully, it probably has a lot to do with how I deliver it and how I communicate. Mm-hmm. Probably coming across like you demanding, like you should, like some feminist, like I'm like, you should believe it this way because this is truth. And there's probably an element of that in my voice. I'm needy. There's still a neediness of acceptance when I first adopt these new truths. They're so powerful that you'd be a moron not to adopt these truths because I'm intelligent. I have a PhD and I adopted this truth. Therefore, it must be true, as if there's nobody smarter than me or nobody more experienced than me. And so as I'm met with that resistance and a hostility from the environment, in one ways it's easy to get like agitated and start like hating them. And it's easy to collapse back into my old way of thinking. I've seen guys do that. But then what's happened to me is I just become more and more accepting. I'm like, wow, these people are sick. Like, where am I behaving like this towards people? Where am I inducing these feelings? Where have I induced it? Maybe this is karma coming back to me where I used to be. A classic example is when I turned vegan 7 years ago, or 8 years ago, or however long it was. Before that, my sister was vegetarian, and I teased her relentlessly, like with all the evidence of why you're supposed to eat meat and all this and that. And then I became vegan, and then I was met with that, and I'm like, oh, karma just came and bit me in the ass, like, And of course, my sister was accepting. That's great, but so she had to. You know what I'm saying? So, would take it away from there. I didn't really have a question from that, but I'm just very interested because I think I've been in this with this community, this IMC Nation, and this evolution of consciousness community, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 years longer than you, and so I'd love to. I love hearing your take on it because you're a good speaker. I just gave a testimonial to Arash that was the cut-up video of all of us guys talking about in the Dream Hotel, how powerful this session was. It was so powerful. Changed my life. And for like the 20th time, he's changed my life. So, and I had to keeping clips of you in there because of the way you enunciate words. Something I noticed about Arash early on when I was watching his videos is he had a lot of like feminine gestures. But he was this tatted up, like kind of muscular martial artist, but he would say things or express things in like almost like a feminine way. And I liked it, and it was uncomfortable at the same time. I liked it because it was like, it softened it. He wasn't so hard. And I hear a lot of that in you, which, and of course I mean it in the best way. Anybody that had low self-esteem would take it insultingly, like, what, you think I'm feminine? It's like, no, the way that you say some words tells me that you hang around women, that you are around women, and because that's just what naturally happens. We mirror each other. And so that's why Arash is like that, this macho, masculine kind of alpha guy, but he communicates as if he's like a female almost because he's around women all the time. And so I hear that in you, and it was really appealing to my ears because, for whatever reason. So what...
As I met
put it
with
in a question, but take it away. Go ahead.
Yeah, as I'm met with a lot of these resistances and challenges, and this is actually one of the teachings that I've really picked up from Arash itself, being under his mentorship program. And let me just say, it's been incredible of a journey, just seeing how he's changed in these past few months, as well as seeing what he brings every single day. Nonetheless, I've realized that to let these resistances go, my mission isn't here to convert people and change them as to this is the way to be, and you should do this, and I know more than you. My mission is to self-express my truth. It has nothing to do with them and how they react. And one of the things I've always, for as long as I can remember now, saying is that the way you react to me says nothing about me and everything about you.
Powerful. Yeah.
And so
that on Instagram, that was good.
Conducting myself in that type of manner is really, really important, because I'm here to just, in a lot of ways, challenge what's conventional, in terms of like what's the norm.
That's why you're here?
I think so, in a lot of ways. Like the way I present myself to the world is like to just challenge and show that, like, look, there's other ways of being. You don't have to just subscribe to the way society is. And I think this is what, at the essence of what a tribe is, like, and I know we shouldn't be using shoulds, but what a tribe does is, it's not to propagate and say, this is the way that you should be, but allow me to be a living example of what this tribe is like. If you like it, I can show you the way to get more involved with it and the whole nine yards around that. You don't
Hmm.
like it, that's totally cool too. But this is just who we are, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Liking it, I think, should be really outcome oriented. Like, do you like the way they are?
Right.
You know, like, do you like the results they're getting? Like Andreas is talking about, hot topic for me in the moment, relationships and expressing my values. You know, it's possible, like, let's say there's this guy online, his name is Jordan Peterson, and he's talking a lot about like gender neutral pronouns. I just like the guy. I don't know, YouTube suggested it. I watched some of his videos. I like the guy, but I would never speak like him. He's a terrible speaker. Like, he's very articulate and intelligent, but he just like begs for hostility.
Mm.
The result of his life, like, I don't see a happy marriage, I don't see happy kids, I don't see happy friends, I see him against the world. And so he's got some powerful ideas, but it's just not something that I admire, you know. And if you know, as you were just saying, like, if you like it, then maybe try it on. Like, if if you didn't like my relationship with Angelica, then don't listen to my advice about relationships.
Hmm.
If you don't like how I behave after I do yoga, don't listen to my yoga. If uh, if you don't like, let's say, my business practices, if you join my business or you join my program, or somehow you get involved with business as a student or client or as a colleague, and you don't like how I do business, don't listen to how I talk about business. How I'm talking about business is how I'm processing this experience. You know, so if you want to join our tribe, or if you want to join a tribe, you got to look at, is that tribe creating the results that you desire? Do you like the way that their relationships are? Do you like the way that their money is, or how they spend their money, or how they invest it, how they donate? Do you like the way that they seem to be able to control themselves or communicate and express themselves, how they resolve conflict? And what you admire about them is what you're seeking. So this is super powerful because, you know, what you said about how the person is responding to you says everything about them and nothing about you. And so how I respond to life is saying everything about me and nothing about life.
Hmm.
And so I'm seeking uh, to be, you could almost say, well-rounded. I'm not really a big fan of that phrase, but I like broadening my spectrum of experience and being. I don't like to be necessarily like caught off guard.
Hmm.
I like the spontaneity and surprise of life, but I don't like, uh, in critical moments, being unprepared. So that's going to happen. But the more I'm exposed to experiences through other people telling me stories or through me living through those experiences, I'm able to consciously respond to life rather than just unconsciously reacting to life. And because that reaction is pointing to a story. Okay, I'm teaching. I don't need to be teaching.
Well, and so
Yeah,
if
go
I
ahead,
mean,
take it away.
it seems like Jose has a question
Yeah.
regarding if a man conquers getting women, was the rest of his life easier? I mean, I mean, I personally don't like the terminology of conquer. I don't think it's a
Sure.
conquering of women in the
Um,
sense of like you're defeating them and then you have them and then bam. It's more of a the way I view it at least is more of a like almost a teaching type thing or showing them like here's the way of a lifestyle. You can join me along with it, and if you're able to teach someone the way that you live and why the way that you live is superior to the way that others live, and superior in the sense of more aligned, I guess maybe not superior is the right word, but more aligned with your own values. um, you're able to show that and communicate that to others. And when you're able to communicate to others in such a way that's authentic with who you are and is in alignment with the way that you are, like your beingness, it it will attract, like it will attract women, and it will be make you all well rounded in other aspects of your life. So whether it be finances, whether it be with um, spirituality, what have you. Um, but in regards to, I guess, the conquering of like a personal fear, yeah, there's so many fears that we have in life, and every single day, like I said, one of the things that I've committed to myself is discomfort. And one of the pieces of evidence of this is I take a cold shower every day, and I've been doing this for close to 2 years. Doesn't get easier any by any means, but every single time you do it, it's just a way of conditioning yourself. Like, okay, this body is not going to be comfortable, so that when I go out in the field, and I'm talking to people, it's okay. I'm not going to be comfortable when I go about doing this. Bam, then I go in. So it's a conditioning of when I'm not comfortable, that's when you go forward and continue with the interaction. But as you get more comfortable with discomfort, you'll realize how unbounded you are, because so much of this world actually is built on comfort, and you need to be comfortable in order to like to do life, and being comfortable is super important for you. But it's not. That's the conventional worldview, but that's not where growth happens. If you look at any animal within the animal kingdom, they're not growing when they have a comfortable experience of life, where they're just chilling and whatnot. They're growing when it's like, all right, it's do or die, and you're going to make this happen. Do or die is not comfortable. You know what I mean? So in the modern age and in society of today, it's so easy to be comfortable. You could just be sitting at home at like your desktop gaming or watching movies all day with a soda in hand and all this greasy food, and you can watch porn and masturbate. Like, you can have all of these, like,
Sounds fun.
comforts, but that's not going to push you to grow. You're not going to grow at all, and it's, in fact, you're actually going to go down. And so it's like, in today's day and age, it's like we need to really commit to being uncomfortable again. That's in all aspects. So it could be talking to a girl that you think is really, really beautiful, but you just don't know what to say. The fact that you even go up to her and say something, that's huge. Absolutely huge. It could be taking a cold shower every day, where it's like, I really don't want to be doing this and it's going to suck. That could be waking up at like 5 a.m. every single morning. Not saying that I do this yet. This is something I'm striving to do. That could be spending money in a way that to others might not seem justified, but to yourself makes sense, and knowing that it's an investment and it's going to pay off. There's so many different aspects to how can we put ourselves in areas of discomfort, that realize that there's so many different ways of doing this, and realize when you're doing it from a place of I'm doing this to grow, versus doing it from a place of I'm doing this kind of like and being stupid about it, I guess. And there's a fine line to it for sure, but you have to understand your beingness and your values first before you can go out in the world and say, this is something where I'm putting myself in an uncomfortable place, and I know I'm putting myself in an uncomfortable place to grow, versus not.
Super excellent.
Self-exploration to do that. So I hope that answered your question, Jose.
Yeah, I'd like to give my take on it. I'd also like to say, I'm wondering if Akash, if we could do it again. If we, you're a yoga teacher, I'm a yoga teacher. I'd love to have another talk, like every Saturday or something. But just think about it.
Yeah, no, I would love to do it. Particularly, I think focused on around the areas of masculinity. As you mentioned, like the yoga community, at least in the States, is very based around women, and it's like, what is it like for a guy? I guess in yoga.
Yeah, that would be a fun conversation. We could go off on that. I want to talk about Jose's thing, and I'd get to take advantage of Akash answering it first, so I can get my ducks in line and figure out what I want to say. The biggest thing I would say is the experience that you're seeking is outside of what you're used to. It's different from how you've been going about doing things. The experience that you're seeking, that version of you would talk about reality differently than how you're talking about it right now. The inner experience would be different than the experience you're having now. So it's different, it's unfamiliar, and which is uncomfortable. Then, especially as a guy seeking women or a woman or whatever it is that you're wanting, there's a reason why you have fear. There's a reason why a man has fear to approach a woman. But it's very irrational. Like, it's very genetically rational, but it's very consciously irrational. So genetically, it's irrational. I mean, you can go into like the biology of it. I'm not going to describe it all here, but there's undeniably every guy that ever watches this video is going to agree that maybe except for like 1 in 100 or something, and let's interview them because there's a special case there. Either they're like a wizard or they're a psychopath. And you, as a guy, have fear approaching the woman that you want. You have fear with the woman that you want, asking her to level up the relationship. There's just fear. And it appears to me that the fear of approaching a woman that you don't know seems to be senior to all the other fears in life that are non-damaging. There's a fear of like fighting a bear. there's a fear of jumping off a cliff. Like there's reasonable fears that it would make sense that would be fearful. But for all the things that are unreasonably fearful, the fear of trying something new, the fear of going dancing, the fear of approaching a woman, the fear of, I don't know, there's probably lots of other fears. Fear of going to a yoga class. The fear you experience in a yoga pose, if it's a new yoga pose. The fear of communicating your feelings to somebody when there's a conflict resolution. Fear of telling your parents like the truth about you or something. If you're not going to be that doctor they wanted you to be, you're going to be a yoga teacher or whatever. Like out of all of the irrational fears to be experienced in life, the fear of approaching a woman seems to be the strongest for a man. And yet it's totally irrational. Once you conquer that fear in you, like you're talking about, then all the other fears become junior to that. That there's just, the first time you tell your girlfriend that you're going to be with other women, that's scary. The first time you actually tell her that you've been with another woman, that's scary. The first time you introduce them to each other, that's scary. And compared to telling the client, yeah, the private session is $150 or 2.5 months of training with me is $1,200 and here's the program. And it's just all the other fears become less. And so do you think that if a man can conquer getting women, the rest of life feels easier? I would also say that there's a lot of byproducts that go on in there. To conquer getting women, which is like inside, you're conquering something inside of you. Because, you could say you're conquering women, but, and I think that's actually true. It's just, I think, easy to misinterpret and put it in a certain way that makes it sound more aggressive than it is. There is a conquesting going on because there's a dominance and a submission, but it's easy to kind of picture it like warlike and like caveman kind of thing. At least for me. So I get that you're talking about conquering something inside. And to actually conquer that is going to require a skill set that makes the rest of life easier. To be able to communicate with women in a way that's not intimidating, that they are open and receptive to you. Or also that qualifies them, so it polarizes women. You're not going to get every woman that you want. And some women are not going to like you. And you want that. If you want to be magnetic to women, you need to be repulsive to some other women. Mm-hmm. And so the skill set you will develop and the internal muscle that you'll develop to do that sort of thing, which is very different than like the skill set you would get, like say meditating. Early in the broadcast, right before Arash came, I was talking, or Akash came, then that'd be cool to have Arash and Akash on the same thing. It's only one letter difference. That's interesting. That, what was I saying? I was saying at the beginning that if somebody was very, very good at chess, but then they tried to play Tiger Woods video game golf, it wouldn't be good. Just because they were a master chess player, they weren't good at Tiger Woods golf. Just because they're masterful, #1 ranked in the world at Tiger Woods golf, try to get them to play soccer, they would suck at it probably. If they're good at soccer, try to get them to go to a yoga class, they're probably going to suck at it. If they're great at yoga, put them in a social venue and have them pick up chicks, and they're probably going to suck at it. Just because you're a master at something, you put somebody in a different arena, and it's just a totally different game. And so to be really, really good at meditation or conquering the fears of your limiting beliefs and all of these things, going in and performing some alchemy or do some auditing or go to a psychologist and just sort out all of the insecurities inside of you is not going to translate to you getting what you want out in the world. You got to go out in the world and apply your practice. And there's no substitute for it. They're just, I wish there was. I wish you could just project a hologram of yourself into the world and master the world without ever needing to leave your seat. But the reality is that you're a robot. Your body's a machine. You got to learn to coordinate with the machine and calibrate it to the effect that you want from the world. And that just takes iterations and practice. Cool. Jose, you get massive benefit. You just got private coaching from having the balls to click the link and join us on Zoom, which is just a mild fear that everybody watching has, that you're going to go further than everybody in everything that you desire because you're willing to do that. So namaste, namaste, namaste. So I'll give it to Akash for any last little talking points. We didn't go too deep into the EC2 event. Is there anything else that you'd like to touch on that people should know? We got like 5 viewers here, a couple viewers on Instagram, a couple on Facebook, and some people will watch it later. Like, what should people know?
Yeah, I guess one of the big things that I had taken away was how excuses are not valid. Anytime that if a teacher presents us with some type of idea, or if we seek some type of idea and they give us an answer, the second that we come up with some excuses to like For example, if I were to talk to Vince and say, oh, I didn't approach this girl because XYZ, that everything that I said because XYZ is the exact reason I won't take up any information and grow. It's uncomfortable when he or some teacher is like, this is what you did wrong, and that's all you have to do. At that point, you don't say anything, because once you say anything and you put it into the logical mind, it doesn't incorporate into the beingness of you. And just hearing it and sitting with that's uncomfortable. When you learn something, it's actually very uncomfortable. This is something we don't realize a lot of the times. But that's what a lot of the times why we're still in our mind and thinking through things of like, oh, what am I going to eat for dinner? Or oh, I should have did the, whatever you do in your mind. It's really uncomfortable actually hearing someone present you with new information, because it shatters your idea of reality to the date. And it puts you in a state of like, I don't know what to do. And so when you rationalize it, and when you use the logical minds to interpret new information, you don't incorporate that information. It's super, super important to let go of these rationalizations and just say thank you, or say nothing. Sitting with that frequency, if you will, or that vibration of what the teacher is presenting you with, is really, really important to incorporate into the beingness. So getting back to the larger point, if excuses are not valid, could be for anything. It could be that you were like, I was late. There's no excuse for it, regardless of what happened. It happened, but I'm still here and I'll continue forward from it. But any excuse that I give doesn't change the fact of what it was. So there's no point in even presenting it in a lot of ways. It's just continue from where you are and take it from there. So.
Absolutely. So we could even pick it up next broadcast with something like that, excuse handling. We got objection handling in sales. How do you handle your own excuses?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm amazed at how inventive I am with excuses. I rationalize everything, why I shouldn't do it or why I should be doing what I'm doing. And I'll catch myself and I'll even know that I'm rationalizing and I'll still participate in it. It's just absurd what your mind does. So, we can pick it up next time with that. So thank you, Akash, for joining me, and we'll post about it for next week, guys, when we're going to do it. And as usual, 12 p.m. every day, I'm doing Science of Spiritual Growth with Yuri, and I have a broadcast coming up with Brian Casella on Monday. And do I have I think I have a broadcast with somebody tomorrow. I did one with Robert Nelson that we'll do again. I'd love to have Akash and Robert and Brian as weekend things, because Yuri is really adamant about he wants every weekday. Just wants lots of information. So I'll do that with him. And so that's great. Then I have my Science of Peace podcast. So that puts me at about 10 free broadcasts per week. So, if you guys want further training, if this was helpful for you, you know where to find me. Sign up for my Silent Flute program. I'll change your life. We'll never be the same again. Go to ninthlimb.com for that. And is there anything that people maybe in the area, or if one of your friends or somebody finds you, is there anything you'd like to say about your business, Akash, or do you want to leave it at that?
At this point, we'll leave it at that. I'm just starting up with some yoga teacher or yoga classes, so I'll be doing them throughout the month and such. But
cool.
At this point, follow my Instagram, Akash NC, or Facebook.
Yes.
But Yogi Chris, thank you so much for this opportunity, and it's always wonderful talking to you, just tapping into your mind and hearing what's going on in there, or more so the being, actually, not really the mind so much. It's incredible. So I just want to say deepest thank you and appreciation.
Wow, you're welcome. Namaste, everyone.
Namaste.